Hi there, welcome to this edition of Leadership Sparklab. So what I want to talk about today is really a topic I call a bad boss is a reflection of a bad company. A bad boss is a reflection of a bad organization. How often do we hear people say they're quitting their jobs because of their bad bosses? In fact, I was studying an international survey that was conducted by a reputable global consulting firm recently that was done in 2022, and it had as the third most common reason that people leave their jobs what they called uninspiring leaders. A funky phrase for a bad boss, and that's coming after obviously career growth, aspirations, and compensation. But my submission is that a bad boss only thrives to the extent that the company itself is a bad company. And the reason I'm saying that is that it is actually the responsibility of a bad company to fish out a bad boss. Don't get me wrong. Very rarely can you see retention at 100%, especially at a sizable organization. There will be the odd one or two that will leave, even with the best of intent and best of employee engagement. But our role as leaders, I always say, is to make it difficult for employees to leave. Okay? So you want to make them citizens of the company. If an employee is a citizen of a company, just like you're a citizen of a country, you don't change your citizenship every 2 years, right, in a country. Then you want to put your employees in a place where they're like citizens of the company, where they can't change the employees, their organization every 2-3 years. So they stay, they are retained. And I had a case recently where a lady came up to submit her resignation to us, and we were pleasantly surprised to realize that she had the offer letter from the poaching company for like 3 months. And according to her, she was dealing with the should I not, okay? And eventually she summoned the courage to tell us she was leaving with a lot of apologies and all of that. And somehow we're sad to have her, to lose her, but we're also happy that it meant that we're doing some things right. Because ultimately, when an employee is deciding to leave a company or not, there's a raft of elements that should be in their thinking. Okay, so there's a montage of images of what they know and love about the company that should be ringing in their heads or in their mind. Is it a supportive organization? Do I have an inspiring leader? How's the workplace flexibility? Is there opportunity for growth, and so on and so forth? And so when another company is coming to poach them, the company has to pay a premium that is superior to the total aggregate value that they place on some of those elements, and then they can begin to shift. So if you have a situation where somebody gets an offer letter from another company on a Friday evening and can't wait to submit their resignation letter on Monday morning, then how poor is the job you are doing in terms of employee engagement and retention? Back to the point about bad boss. In truth, some companies can definitely identify bad bosses. They tend to turn a blind eye to their misdemeanor and misbehavior, especially because a lot of companies are very numbers driven. So if it's a boss that is delivering strong numbers, year in out delivers performance and all of that, they just tend to let him be, because the concern is we're going to deliver performance, a superior shareholder value to our investors, we're going to get bonuses and all of that. But such thinking, that sort of mindset, from a performance management standpoint, is in fact short-term, because the truth of the matter is that there's only so much that employees can live with a misbehaving boss just because he's delivering numbers. When I was appointed the CEO of Guinness Ghana many years ago, it happened at the time that we were trying to merge two big businesses in Ghana. There was Guinness Ghana and there was Ghana Breweries. Guinness Ghana being a Diageo company, Ghana Breweries being a Heineken company, and I was coming as the CEO to merge and ensure a very smooth integration. But I was coming in from Coke. As soon as I joined, my entire focus was on performance. If I called a 1-hour town hall meeting, I spent 50 minutes, 50, talking about revenue and the profit and cost and market share and competition and all that had to do with commercial delivery. I was so commercially oriented around that. But what then happened? Well, we got the numbers, okay? But the sad news was that when the results of the annual value survey that the company used to conduct at that time came out, we scored 16%, 16, in what was called super engagement score. And what was super engagement score? What did that entail? So it was the aggregation of the responses from staff around things like, are you proud working for this company? Would you recommend the company as a good place to work for your friends? Are you considering leaving the company and all of that? So in terms of people that were truly super engaged with the company, it was just 16%. So the rest were answering those questions in a very negative way. So, but I didn't know the impact of that until I had my appraisal review with my boss, and I got dinged, D-I-N-G-E-D. So the dinging happened from the fact that obviously normally people are rated depending on the organization from exceed expectation down to meet expectation, meet some, below expectation, whatever the ratings are. So the dinging is when based on your numbers and other things, you're supposed to be, say, exceed expectation. You just drop one level to meet expectation. Of course, that had ramifications on your bonus, your visibility, and rating in the company and all of that. So it was when I got dinged that it dawned on me that a performance that had to do with only numbers was not holistic enough and was not acceptable for the organization. Now that's a good company. So nobody taught me that I had to bring the matter of employee engagement to the core of my leadership, such that the following year I paid so much attention on knowing my people, focusing on them, engaging with them, and doing all of those things that really encourage them to stay in the organization, with the result that the following year our super engagement score shot up to 60%, 60. So we shifted from 16 to 60 in 1 year. If I remember well, that was actually the biggest shift across the whole of DIGO worldwide that year. But it didn't happen by accident. I had to cause it. I had to realize that I needed it to be sure that I was a holistic leader from a DIGO perspective at that time. And therefore, I'm saying that it took a good company to pull me back by the shirt, to say numbers fantastic but not enough. And that's my point about when we say that a bad boss, we should emphasize that. There should be no room for that. But we should never let the company off the hook. The company itself has a role to play in ensuring that employees don't leave. And by the way, the biggest learning I took that year was that, contrary to my thinking that if I just drove numbers by all of the things I did, it didn't matter, if I didn't have time to pay attention to people, then I was doing the right thing. But actually, the results we delivered with our 60% value survey, super engagement score, was actually better in absolute terms than the previous year. So paying attention to the matter of people, I discovered wasn't necessarily a barrier to an exceptional business performance. And in fact, if anything, it does enhance it. So I repeat, a bad boss is a reflection of a bad company. And by the way, for those of you that rush to quit companies because of your bad boss, if there are legitimate processes, platforms, institutions, or governance in place in the organization to call out the bad bosses, try to do that as a first step before rushing out of the company. I've seen cases of some people, employees, who left a company because the boss is bad, to join another company, and then somehow a couple of months later, the company they've joined will come back for that boss and poach the boss again, and it becomes their boss again. Then what are you going to do? Jump ship again. So sometimes when you think you are stuck in traffic with a bad boss, it may well be that the traffic is a company that is a bad company. So a bad boss sometimes is a reflection of a bad company. Thank you.